Welcome, everybody, to Helping Oaxaca. Thank you for giving us your Friday night. This is like the third, I think, Friday night in a row that I've been doing these sessions, and uh, and 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 I need a nap. So this session actually is different from the other ones in that the previous ones, what we were focusing on very specifically was agave spirits, and what I've been finding in working with the people who love agave spirits is that they also love Mexico and in particular love Oaxaca. And so I wanted to do a session that was just about Oaxaca and about the impact that this pandemic is having on Oaxaca and the things that are being done to mitigate that impact. So I'm really, really happy this evening to invite three friends on who work for non-for-profits. I'm going to introduce them all, but before we get into that, I want to say that if you are watching this on YouTube, don't post anything on YouTube. I won't see it. If you've got a question, you've got to come to Zoom. If you don't know how to get to Zoom, it's a little late. You should have thought of that before. So if you're on Zoom and you want to send a question, you can send a question and I'll look at it and then I'll send the questions out to these folks if we have time. Now, after this session, the tape is going to be archived and will be available. If I've got your email address, if you received an email from me, you will also receive a post email that has a link to it. So if you want to go back and see, wait a minute, did Lou really say that? You'll be able to do that and you'll be able to pull that out and you'll make it some kind of JPEG or a GIF or whatever they call those things and put it all over the internet. I also want to mention that next Friday, because I am just not done with my Friday sessions, next Friday we will be doing a Palenque tour with Cruz de Fuego out in Santiago Matatlan. And specifically, we're going to be talking about how they make mezcal. And by they, I mean very specifically Carlos Mendez Blas and his family. Because to me, the fascinating part of these agave spirits is how the processes are the same and yet different in so many ways. So you'll get a look at one particular way that they make them. So, oh, yes. And as you're watching us this evening, you'll see that each of us has a little handle next to our names there. And so if you post anything to social media, please tag us, particularly my friends, because I love the work that they do. So let me get into introducing them. And I'm going to introduce them in the order, I think, opposite, like how recently I've known you, which means I'm starting with my new friend, Fernando Garcia. Fernando is a member of Fundación Avzi. Avzi? Is it pronounced Avzi?
Yeah.
Okay. Fundación Avzi, and he's the coordinator of the project. I'm going to butcher this. Polo para la ciudadanía participativa.
Yes, good enough.
You're very, very kind. And so what you're doing, as I understand it, is you're going out into the communities in Oaxaca and you are surveying them for their needs. And then you are going to the nonprofits, the registered charities that service those communities, and you're helping them understand those needs and you're doing professional development with those nonprofits. Did I miss anything?
More or less what we are doing, yes.
And
To
during
try
your
to
introduction,
strengthen these organizations. That's it.
amen. And when I'm done doing my introduction, I'm going to hand it over to each of you so you can go into more detail about what you do. Um, so, oh my goodness, yes. So next up is Jose Carlos Leon, who is the director of Secanda. And yeah, I met Secanda. I don't even remember how I met you. Somebody at the Posada where I stay, I think, said you should check these guys out. I think that's what happened. And so Connie, my wife, and I came to visit you, and we started having meetings, and you took us out to the communities where you work. And the communities where you work, and again, stop me if I've got it wrong, the communities where you work are entirely the recycler communities. It's literally the people who live in the places where there are garbage dumps, and the communities by and large make their money by going into the garbage dumps, retrieving recyclables, turning them in for cash. And so you, because they're oftentimes squatting on those lands, they don't own the land they live on. You go and help them to have a better life. You're helping them build libraries and run schools and community centers. Yes?
Yes, indeed. But I think it's because we are both comic and science science fiction fans. The Force. I wanted to think that the Force brought us together.
Hang on. Would you say that did we connect over Star Wars stuff and I've just forgotten that?
I want to think it this way.
Okay, we'll do that. That's good. I like that. The Force brought us together. I like that. And then Agave brought me together with my next guest, Ana Paula. And so Ana Paula and I met, even though Ana Paula lives in Oaxaca and I live in Chicago, we met in Edinburgh, Scotland at a mutual friend's wedding. And Ana Paula, what Ana Paula does is she helps through. She's here representing the Kata Foundation, and she'll go into more detail about how it's not really the Kata Foundation right now, but it will be again. But right now, she's still helping these beautiful artists and communities that each of us who visits Oaxaca has come to love. And she takes the most amazing, she does a lot with these people and she helps them in many ways. But I think the most fascinating way is through these beautiful pictures that she posts to Instagram. She has like 60,000 followers, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're all so shy. But she communicates so much about the beauty of these communities in those pictures. So those are our three guests, and I'm realizing now that we've got another pair of guests who I'm going to try and pull in. Hang on, where did they go? Because they are my friends from Agave Latte. Are they even here? I don't think they're here. Oh, wait, there we go. Allowed to talk and promote to panelist. I think any second now.
Hey there, Lou.
Hey, how you doing? Is Dalta and Hannah? You got Hannah there?
I'm here.
Okay. So for some reason your screen isn't showing up. So I apologize for that. But if you could, I invited them on because Dalton and Hannah have this company, Agave Latte, and what they do is they have a Mezcalero of the Month Club where you sign up and then every 2 months you get 2 bottles that are sourced directly from the men and women who make those agave spirits. And as a result of that work that they do, they are involved in those agave spirits making communities, hands-on on, would it be accurate to say almost a daily basis, guys?
Definitely weekly.
Definitely weekly. So I was hoping that you could give us just a brief update as to what is going on in those specific communities before we get into the entire picture, because I know that the vast majority of people attending this session right now like to drink the stuff that comes out of those communities.
Well, as you know, Lou, my Spanish is in what I call a developmental stage. So Hannah's actually the one in the company who's constantly, I would say almost bi-daily, in contact with all the mezcaleros. So she can definitely speak to this much better than I can. And she'll tell you, you know, how often we've been checking in and some of the kind of patterns we've been seeing, although it's hard to generalize, you know.
Yeah. So we at this point have worked with about 20 producers or so, and I'd say that's like 15 towns because a number of them are in Minas. So I can only really speak to the conversations I've had with those 15 to 20 producers. We checked in with everybody intentionally in March and April. And in March, of course, it was like, yeah, this is bizarre. No one really knew what to think, and a lot of just cuídate, you know, take care and that type of stuff. By April was when I really started to see a difference, and a number of producers had told me that production was now completely stopped. It's interesting because it corresponds with, you know, May is the rainy season, and that's when a lot of producers start to go out to be planting in the fields anyway. So like Semei, who is our featured producer of May right now, he's probably one of the biggest producers. Yeah,
for sure.
So he right away was like, yeah, we've stopped production, but we're out in the fields planting. So I'm not sure if that was something they would have been doing anyway. But so between him and then like Don Goyo is another producer who typically has employees. He's also mentioned to me, yeah, we had to stop. But on the contrary, I've had conversations with producers that wouldn't typically have any other employees other than like it's a father-son type production. And I mean, they invited us to come just the other week, and I was like, I don't think we can get into the town. It was in Sola de Vega.
Yeah.
And it was Noe was our producer from April. It was his son Ruben, and he was like, "Oh, really? I wouldn't even know. I haven't left." So I don't want to generalize. It's really hard to say like how much a whole town or a given person is suffering. But my impression through the organic conversations that I've had recently with producers is that luckily they're all in pueblos where they either grow their own food, they have their own livestock, or they have access to it pretty easily, and no one's paying rent, no one's paying for utilities. So like the very basics in terms of having your food and shelter and water, everybody's good in that sense. Like Jaime yesterday when we talked, he's like, yeah, we're not going to die from hunger, but the issue is the fear and the unknown around how are we going to start making money, whether you're a producer, whether you're an artisan. Like a lot of the towns that we've worked with, if they're not making mezcal, they're often artisans. And so Oaxaca depends on tourism. And so I think it's kind of what a lot of the world is facing is like, okay, if we don't have tourists, what do we do now? And Jaime was saying, I haven't been able to go to the center since February to sell mezcal, and I have 400 liters of espadín just sitting in the bodega. So
But what I'm not hearing from you is anything about the virus. Is this your way of saying that the real problem is an economic problem? It's not really a health problem in those communities?
in those communities, I would say so, because they've all been completely blocked off and no one can get in or get out. I have not had the experience that anyone has said, oh, my neighbor's sick, or anyone in their family is sick. Have you?
No.
In terms of the pueblos, not in the city center. In the city center, it's a much bigger problem. So yeah, I'm not hearing much of fear about the actual virus or of getting sick. It's much more around long-term economic resources and how people are going to sustain themselves without the tourism.
And I would just add to that, there is a case or two in each pueblo, according to just the statistics online. But like the mezcaleros didn't mention, oh, my brother has it, my dad has it. So like they don't know anyone who has it.
Yep.
I will say, and I experienced this personally, while taking precautions, but trying to keep their economy going, that they are doing a rigorous job of blocking off these roads. And I one day stood on the side of the highway for 2 hours while they went and got the mezcal and brought it back. So like there's no foreigners coming in. And I think they do that because they know they don't have the hospital capacity and perhaps testing technology available. So the way they stay safe is close it off. And it's a bartering system, like Alex said from Respiral. They're trading with each other. Here's a bottle of mezcal for a chicken type of deal. I think the concern is, medications and things that people need to pay money with. There's no money coming into their system. It's just an internal system of money right now because tourism's not there and mezcal's not being exported to some extent. I mean, we're still buying from them and exporting, but generally speaking. So.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to jump to my guest. Before I let you go, though, I had a question asking if you ship to Chicago, and of course I know you ship to Chicago because I'm in Chicago. But I just wanted to point him to your website. Is it just magaymalate.com?
Correct.
There you go. Okay, guys, thank you very much. I'm going to mute you again, but yeah, thank you for the update.
Thanks, Lou, and looking forward to hearing the speakers talk tonight.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so let's get back to it. And if I could get just like a quick overview from each of you as to what you do and how you do it, I would appreciate it. And I want to start with, since I ended with her, Ana Paula. Oh, you're still muted, Ana Paula, so I'm going to unmute you. And apparently,
that's it. Thank
there
you.
You go. Sure.
I didn't know about Zoom before the quarantine, before the pandemic. So I'm still getting used to it after 2 months. But anyway, thank you for inviting me to your Friday night, Lou. It's a pleasure to share this night with you, with Fernando, and with Jose Carlos. And well, I am from Mexico City. I moved to Oaxaca 15 years ago. And I have the opportunity to start and to found and to direct the Textile Museum of Oaxaca. In 2006, we started the project. And because of that, I had the chance to meet a lot of artisans, a lot of groups, cooperatives that I worked with during my 6 years at the Textile Museum of Oaxaca. And so when I left the museum 8 years ago, I wanted really to be more into the field, working closely with the artisans. So I started getting very involved into the social design field, which is a branch of design. I am a textile designer. I studied textile design and fashion design in Barcelona.
Okay.
So social design is a kind of it goes a little bit against of the Western design mindset. It is for human beings, and the basis of social design is that you work as a facilitator, as a bridge between the people you are working with and the people who these people are going to be selling to, or it's a kind of social responsible design.
Oh, that's so. But if I'm following you correctly, in essence, it's and I don't want you to take this as a dirty word, but it's sort of marketing. It's in essence, you're trying to set up a way for people to bring to market the things that they do. Is that
actually no? Actually, it's a paradox to say that social design is social. Design is this. Design is social. Should be social.
Mm-hmm.
Victor Papanek, the Austrian guy who put the name to social design in the 50s, it's because people who were working in design forgot about who they were working for. So originally, design is to solve problems, but design was creating more problems to become people to be dependable on you as a designer. So what social design does is exactly the opposite, is to enable people to be autonomous, people to decide on their own. And so you as a designer, your role as a designer is just to enable those tools to make these people independent, self-sufficient, and autonomous. So after I left the Textile Museum, I met a woman from Spain, and she was getting into the social design studies. Carmen, she's from Barcelona, and so she came to Oaxaca to start her research to get her degree, PhD degree in social design. Anyway, she contacted me, and so we started this project called CADA Project. The idea of the project was how to approach indigenous communities in a very different way as normally designers approach people, groups of artisans. Designers, we normally come and we have a model, and we impose a model and we decide what the artisans are gonna make so that we have those products designed by us designers, and then we just pay the artisans and that's it. But we don't really enable some kind of knowledge. We don't give them the tools to become designers themselves. So the idea of this project, of CADA project, was exactly to do the opposite of what designers normally do. We were just a bridge, we were just facilitators, and for 3 years, we went to a community in the Mixtec area called San Pablo Tijaltepec, where actually women make these blouses. These are embroidered blouses, and it takes like 6 months to do one of these. So it is a very a remote and marginated community in the Mixtec Highlands in Oaxaca. And so we started this project in order to kind of discover how, as designers, we could create a project together with them, but that in the end, they were able to create their own business, not with our help, not with our support, only with our guidance, but unleashing little by little all their capacities, all their skills, all their knowledge, all their traditions, all their oral narrative stories, in order to turn them into women who were more empowered, more self-sufficient, with more self-esteem, and confident to create their own business. Because in the indigenous communities, or even though you are a weaver, you might not want to be a weaver. It is because your grandmother was a weaver, your mother was a weaver, so you are a weaver, but you might not have that skill. And so you don't really know what you're able to do. and what's your passion. So the other thing that we did in this project was to create this kind of conversation around to identify, when you work with a group, what are the skills of other women that you are working with, so that you don't generalize. So anyway, this was during we've been working with Cara for almost 7 years. And so after this project, we created a foundation, which is registered in New York City, because Carmen lives in New York City. And so after this, the group that we work with created their own business, and now they have their own business. They are doing everything, their marketing, their branding, their production, shipping, everything. And they are not working with any designer. And that doesn't mean that working with designers is bad. Of course not. Actually, working with designers is a great, great thing if you collaborate in a very horizontal and in a very ethical way. So we provided the tools for them to negotiate with designers, to negotiate with stores, with brands, and so that they can be able to do what normally the artisans are not able, and not because they don't know how, they cannot do it, but because many times they have to compromise their products because they need the money and they don't know how to negotiate and how to deal with the people and with the market. So basically this was the project. Right now, Cara Foundation is in a standby because Carmen is still getting her research. I mean, she's still in the process of getting her PhD degree because she has been extending her thesis, and actually she's writing a book. So from this project, I took all this knowledge and all this methodology to work with other groups. So for 7 years, I've been working with other artisan groups in Oaxaca, in Chiapas, and in Guerrero, and with the same methodology, which is completely organic. And actually it's not a methodology, because the methodology comes from the context. You work with the people, and so the people you are working with tells you what to do. You don't have like a formula. You don't have like a step 1, step 2, step 3. No, you know the values, you know the principles, you know what is the aim of the project and what is meaningful to do with them. But basically all the methodology comes from getting to know the people, getting to know the weavers, the artisans, and then you create a project around that based on their needs, based on their knowledge, on their tradition, on their context. And so in the end, you're really providing a support that's gonna be in a long-term use, not something that is gonna be like a Band-Aid. Okay, you need to sell. I'm giving you some design, and then I'm gone. And then the artisans, if you're gone, then like right now with the COVID, no, the artisans that haven't had that opportunity to become self-sufficient and autonomous, and they are depending on designers or brands, it's harder to get to survive. So what Cara has been doing, and my aim with all these projects, which has been an adventure, and of course I've been learning, and all this work hasn't been done only by myself. I've always worked with another designer, because this is a collective work. And so, yeah, that's what I've been doing for the last 8 years, also guiding tours through responsible tourism and taking photographs to promote the artisans that I've been working with.
So anybody, I'm guessing you can't see my screen. I'm guessing you've got notes over my face, but I've been flashing some of your pictures behind me to illustrate the pictures you take. And yeah, and really anybody who loves Oaxaca, who's not following you on Instagram at Ana del Camino should be, because your pictures are just stunning. And so I'm assuming that when I send out this email tomorrow with the link to the archived video, that we'll be able to include some links to the artisans who are selling the art that you're talking about.
Yep.
And also, what about the tours? Are there links to the tour?
Actually, the company that I was working with, that I worked with for 8 years, just shut down, just closed its doors.
Is that
Yes, actually.
is that the
Yeah,
coronavirus?
25 years. Yeah, Traditions Mexico. It's an American company that has worked in Oaxaca for 25 years, and due to the coronavirus, it has to close because all our tours were canceled from now
Sure.
to December. So it cannot stand. I mean, it's impossible to survive if you don't have incomes.
Sure.
So unfortunately, we have to close.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the tours are not gonna be run from now, I think, a year, and that's
Uh,
not only bad for the people who were working with Tradition Mexico, I mean the staff, but
sure.
mainly actually for the people we were visiting, the artisans, all the communities that uh, not they were not depending at all on us, of course not, because they have other incomes, but we were trying to do some kind of, not just bringing tourists to visit these artisans, but also doing some respectful promotion of how to be a good traveler, a responsible traveler. So
Hmm.
yeah, the tours are not anymore. I'm looking forward to creating more tours when this is over and when the world opens up. But so far, no tours. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. And we'll get back to more about how this is impacting those
yeah,
communities after all the introductions, because I do think that's, I mean, that's the relevant point that everybody
yeah.
wants to hear.
Yeah, thank you,
So
Lou.
sure. Thank you, Ana Paula. Okay. So Jose Carlos, tell us more about Secanda.
Thank you and good evening, everybody. Well, Sikanda has been in operation for a little bit more than 10 years. And what we do is we implement projects that are designed with the communities that live in landfills or near landfills. You have to know that in Mexico, but also many countries in the world have not small numbers of people who live around dumping sites, landfills. These are irregular settlements, slums, or favelas, and Oaxaca City is not the exception. Many, I would say that every state in Mexico has communities and families living around landfills, either because they work as informal recyclers or because they occupy land as irregular settlements, and then they build complete neighborhoods, obviously without basic services, but that's where they settle because they can't afford housing in the main cities. So that's where Sikanda operates. Our constant variable is that we work in this type of locations, but we implement different types of projects that go from children's rights, violence prevention in youth, economic empowerment for women, particularly single mothers who live in this type of slums. We also have one type of programs that are committed to capacity building for grassroots groups. And finally, initiatives related to the environment. So we change our topics, but what we don't change much is the area where we operate. We created this organization, my wife and I created this organization 10 years ago. After several years of experience working in Asia and Latin America with trash pickers, they call them scavengers in other places. So when we returned to Oaxaca, I am from Oaxaca City originally, we saw that the communities were similar to the places that we knew from our work experience. So it was like a natural passage to start working in that area. Sikanda didn't appear immediately. It took us several months of exploring whether other organizations were doing the same thing we wanted to do. Getting to know the families is not that you just because you are Sikanda or someone with a degree. I don't think it's sensible to just go there and saying, I'm going to implement a project. It takes time, as any other people that knocks at your door, building trust. And I would even say that the first year that Sikanda started with the project, it was really a moment in which we broke the ice. I think it took us about 6 years, the first 5 or 6 years of Sikanda, we were breaking the ice. Now, after 10 years, we have and after 10 years of constant presence, we have a solid relationship with the people. And the photo that you see on Lou's background is just has been recently taken. This is a photo of one of the food delivery days that we implemented this week to help the people and the communities endure the quarantine, endure and resist the lack of work. As our friends from Palate Mezcal said, the absence of money and income entering, the absence of remittances for some families, remittances that come from Mexicans who live in the US, that stopped abruptly. And this is the type of project that Sikanda focuses on.
Yeah, thank you very much. The thing you didn't mention that I think is really relevant to this particular audience as well is you teach these families how to build organic gardens, right? So that they can eat food from their gardens. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's what's part of the training that we transmit. It's reusing through basic composting systems part of the organic waste from their own homes, or that the waste that arrives from supermarkets, for example. Waste, of course, that hasn't touched any toxic substance. Although there is no industry in Oaxaca, so there is no heavy metals there. But anyway, families transform this into soil that then they use at schools for growing vegetables, or at homes for their own, family gardens. And in a particular case of one middle school, they actually grow agaves.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking for.
Thanks to the loose connections, we are able to sell to agave distillers and producers in Oaxaca. So some of the agave, many of the agaves that some mezcaleros are using come from middle school children, youth that are growing their agaves to, and with that money, they built a toilet, they built a classroom. The schools, there are about 22 schools in an 18,000 people neighborhood. So there are several schools there. And this particular school grows agave, sells them to keep building their school, because the government is almost absent. And authorities, they don't provide services because they don't want to encourage more settlements, even though it's their obligation to do so.
And I just want to put a fine point on that as well, in case there's any questions. So when people make donations to Sacred, my nonprofit, I guess I never introduced myself. I'm Lou Bang from Sacred Agave. I assume everybody knows that because you all probably came through one of my pages. But just in case you didn't, the people who make donations to Sacred for replanting agave, those donations go to that middle school. We purchase the huelos, the little agave seedlings, if you will, for $1 a piece, US $1 a piece, which is somewhere between 2 and 3 times the going rate locally for these Tobala babies. And then we donate those plants for free to families who have been making agave spirits in a heritage way for multiple generations throughout Oaxaca. So that whenever you donate money to Sacred to replant agave, it's going to this middle school in this recycler community that Jose Carlos is talking about. He called us one day and said, hey, this school has 10,000 Tobala babies. Is there anything you can do with them? And it was one of the best calls of my life. It was one of the happiest moments. So Thank you for that, Jose Carlos. Okay, and now on to Fernando. You're blue, Fernando. I don't know what happened to your screen. You turned a little blue. It's like you haven't had any oxygen.
Well, I used to be gray, so I think that's an improvement. Yeah, a few minutes ago I was gray, so I don't know what happened. Maybe it's the light because now it's getting
Oh, a little
sunset,
darker. Yep.
Well, two warnings. First of all, I don't know why, but my Wi-Fi has been not working. So please, if there's some problem,
We'll just cover for you. We'll start doing imitations.
Yeah. And then the other warning is my English, which is terrible and poor, but I mean, I think it'll be enough for me to explain what I want to
Your English is
explain and to
perfect.
share with you. So the Project Polo para la Ciudadanía Participativa, it's a very interesting project which develops in 3 states in Mexico, Guerrero, Oaxaca, and Puebla. And as you can see, it's a partnership with these NGOs. One of them is Icanda, which Jose Carlos is the director of it. And what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve is to strengthen local nonprofits in these 3 states, especially in specific regions where they need some tools to strengthen and to become protagonists of the story, not more Cinderellas of the story, but protagonists of it. And we are doing it through this methodology that Ana Paula said, not imposing anything, not forcing any process, but to hear what they have to say and to try to read, try to understand the cultural specific situation. And from that point, we try to start our formation project to strengthen them.
Nice.
Yeah, and just to, for you to picture that it's a big project, we work with more or less 200 nonprofits.
Wow.
So it's a big one, and I have the privilege of being the coordinator of this huge and beautiful project.
That's lovely. Thank you very much for that. Now, I see from my script that I screwed up, and this was the point at which I was supposed to invite Dalton and Hannah to start talking about what the impact of COVID-19 looks like on the ground in Oaxaca. And so I was going to follow up with what they said by asking each of you what you're seeing. So let me just jump in and do that. I'm going to throw it first now to you, Fernando, to keep you talking. So can you give us a view of what it looks like overall in Oaxaca right now? How is the impact of the virus?
Yeah, actually, I think the analysis from Dalton, it was very accurate. I think it actually, Dalton wrote to me, thank you. He contacted me a few days ago. Thank you for showing interest. And I think his analysis, it's very accurate in the sense that, of course, the main income is tourism. And without this income, I think it'll be really hard for Oaxaca to get on their feet, at least for now, because it's not the only income, but it's the main one. And of course, it's the one that moves the whole economy in the region. So that's going to be a challenge. We conducted a survey to almost 200 NGOs of these 3 states, Oaxaca, Guerrero, and Puebla. And of course, they are also suffering. And you know that when I say they are suffering as nonprofits, it means that a lot of people depend on them, because this organization, at least each of them, are working with 10 or 15 families.
So when you're saying that the nonprofits are suffering, that's really just an indication you've got 10 to 15 times that in terms of suffering with these families.
Yes, of course, because if those who they go in, I mean, those who are serving these communities are not helping them, or at least they are not giving them some support, it's really hard for those communities. I mean, of course, they are resilient, they are being strong, and they're used to this kind of crisis. But in the sense that these organizations have no money, they have no income for now. It's really hard for them to help and to serve and to continue the processes with these communities.
Well, you said that they're used to this kind of suffering, but is this feels to me like it's a bigger, certainly in terms of economic impact, this has to be bigger. I mean, there was, you get riots where tourists slows down, but this is tourism literally just shutting down altogether.
It is, and I think it has also to do with a different kind of crisis, which is one in which we cannot solve it face to face, right? So of course they were used to more physical crises and how to endure and how to solve them in a very physical manner. But now, of course, everything is different. So in this new scenario, of course, there are like different strategies they will have to implement in order to survive. But of course, I mean, I'm speaking for the NGOs and the nonprofits, the small ones especially. It's going to be really hard, because if the only thing you can do is to conduct meetings through Zoom or through, it's going to be really hard to be with the communities, to be present with the communities who maybe don't even have any electrical energy supplies at the moment, or
Right.
even a very low or a very bad internet signal. So I think that's why it's different, because in different scenarios, in different crises, yes, they had the help of others, or at least all the NGOs, bigger, could help them in different ways. But now it's getting really hard to access to these communities. Even a lot of small communities in Oaxaca have decided to shut their borders down. So this is very serious, very different. How can you help? How can you serve people if you cannot approach to them in the way you want?
So I'd like both Ana Paula and Jose Carlos. I'd like you to unmute yourselves, because I'm guessing that if I ask you, each of you, the same question, you're going to say the same thing, that this is an economic impact issue. But I heard from my friend, I think Jason Cox, I think it was today or yesterday, that there's a news report that just came out that that a number of the governmental officials in Oaxaca are testing positive for the coronavirus. And I don't want to, wow, this is so weird. It's like the opposite of what I'm experiencing here in Chicago. I don't want to minimize the economic problem, right? Like, I get that that's huge, but am I really understanding correctly that the virus itself isn't really reaching the communities that you guys work with?
You wanna?
Jose Carlos is still muted. I guess he didn't want to.
Nah, yeah.
There you go. Nope.
I with because sometimes my daughter is screaming, so maybe Ana Paula can start, and I can follow.
Okay. Well, I've been during these 2 months, I've been in touch with all the artisans that I work with, and well, Oaxaca, it's very, very big and very diverse. And one thing is Oaxaca City and the artisans that live in Oaxaca City in the urban areas. And then you have the highlands, you have the jungle. And so as far as you go from the city, of course, there's less possibilities to get the virus. So the women, for example, from the Mixtec coast, they are in their homes, but there's no infected people yet, fortunately.
None, like zero.
None. No, zero.
Okay.
And then in the Chinantec area in the north part of Oaxaca, in the border with Veracruz, nothing. And then in the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, there's a lot of infected people. And then so it's very, very different. It changes from region to region. But what is true is that they are all scared. It's funny because, well, not all the artisans, but some of them, they just got the announcement of a virus that it was very dangerous, and they didn't know what was the virus. So they were just asked to be at their homes, not get out, and that's it. So they were just texting me like, Anna, what is this? What's going on? We don't know. No one is telling us what exactly is going on. The government just told us to be, I mean, the municipality government just told us to be at home. So it depends on the culture, on the area where the artisans are. For example, in Oaxaca City, it's a different thing. They are all, of course, aware of what's going on. And yeah, the thing is that they are all affected. Even if there's infected people or not,
Right.
they are all exactly under the same situation. They are all stuck. They were all expecting the holidays, the Easter holidays, the Guelaguetza, to sell what they've been producing for 4 months since December. And they have stock of production in their homes and they cannot sell anything.
Oh God! So one of the things that that we started doing at Sacred after we heard the same thing from these agave spirits communities, right? The mezcal communities, is we started selling futures, where we've raised a lot of money. We set up web pages with PayPal buttons, and the money goes directly to the people making the spirits. So we've got all of these, all the people who are watching here, they want to get back to Oaxaca as soon as they can get back to Oaxaca. So what we've done for them is made it possible for them to buy spirits now, so that the mezcaleros have the money now when they need it, and selling stuff that they had produced to sell now. And it's not going to be the same quantities, but enough to help mitigate some of the financial issues. There's no reason we couldn't do the exact same thing for these artisans.
Well, the thing is that, I mean, as Fernando and Jose Carlos know very well, because we are working in communities, not necessarily indigenous communities, but most of them are indigenous. They have very different systems that we have in the cities. I mean, they have the Guelaguetza, which is nothing but mutual support, community solidarity among the people who are living in a same place. Is not this economic festivity that the government has been running for years. Right. And actually it has already been canceled, and the artisans were like, okay, your Guelaguetza, the government's Guelaguetza, is canceled, but our Guelaguetza, the community's Guelaguetza, is not canceled. It's more powerful than ever because they are supporting each other as they can. I mean, that's the reality in the communities. They are, of course, going through a very difficult times, but they have other ways of surviving that we don't have in our system, in our capitalist and urban system. So one of the biggest problems actually is not really the income that they, of course, it's a big problem, the income that they get from these markets during Easter holiday and Guelaguetza and Day of the Dead. But one of the main problems is that most of the artisans haven't been censed. There's no census of the artisans. Can you believe that? So
when you say, you mean literally a census to understand how many?
Exactly. Okay. They are not counted. So the bailouts are not going to reach the artisans because they don't even know who and how many. So the taxation is completely out of their, I mean, if I am a company and I'm not going to be paying my taxes because these are kind of bailouts that the government some of them have been trying to carry out, but the artisans have no way of getting any of the support from the government because they are just like another sector and they are not counted as enterprises and business people because they are artisans. They are in their homes, in their communities. And so this is a problem because they have two things to go through. One is that tourism is completely shut down. And so they cannot sell to anybody in not just in the, I mean, not even the stores, anything.
Right.
But secondly, that the government won't give any kind of support to them because they are not counting them.
They don't exist on paper.
They don't exist.
Wow.
So they are actually yeah, just like surviving, because, well, I'll tell that when you ask about what's happened
Right.
because of the
What the
pandemic.
response
That has
is.
been really, really surprising, that I'm going to tell you after.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, so let's and I'm sorry, I got a question real quick on Paula, is
Yeah.
from Tracy Gomez. Is it possible to purchase items from any of the artisans online? So this is in essence
Mhm.
what we had talked about at the beginning, right? If you'll give me a bunch of links that I can include in the email.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
there
Yeah.
you go, Tracy. As long as you received an email from me today to get into this, you'll receive an email tomorrow or Sunday that has links
Yeah.
to purchase stuff.
Maybe Sunday, because I have to get all the information, because not all the artisans are actually, just like 5% of them had websites,
Hmm.
but they have Instagram and Facebook page and WhatsApp, and that's a way to reach them. So of course, I'm going
Beautiful.
to give you all the ones that are ready to ship.
Beautiful. Okay, Jose Carlos, you're on.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something in relation to the contagion. No, you have to consider that Oaxaca, it's by default like a little bit like a federal system. I mean, we are a federal system, but we are quite centralized in Mexico. But Oaxaca is quite peculiar because we have the largest number of counties in Mexico. There are 2,500 approximately, and 570 are located in Oaxaca. So basically, you reach to open your window and you are in another county, another municipality. You walk in front of your house and there's another one. So the government changes, and many of these, about over 450, I guess, are autonomous counties or municipalities. That means they have their own rules of government. They elect their own officials according to their own methods, a mix of indigenous and Mexican culture. So this means that each municipality is deciding right now whether to close and how will they close their economy, their transit. So I think that is helping a lot in preventing the contagion rate, because once it enters, then it's the economic weakness that it's specific to Oaxaca state, where there is no infrastructure at all. If somebody brings the virus into one of these communities or any community in Oaxaca, then it's going to be, a massacre.
Well,
When
and
you
this is,
have maybe not even a hospital, you have a clinics and so on. So it's going to be very difficult.
this is the piece, and not so much in the communities where you're working, Jose Carlos, but this is the piece that surprises me, is that we're just not getting back much of any indication of people being infected in the communities where agave spirits are made. And I know for a fact that there were people visiting those communities, tourists from other countries visiting those communities, as late as March 18th. And it just shocks me that you didn't see one or two people getting sick in the community, and then that leading to 10 to 20 people getting, like, it's shocking to me. And I would guess that, just as with the spirits communities, that you had the same kind of tourism out into the artisan communities.
Well, it was maybe in March, but now I think it's quite. It would be quite dangerous, and I would dare to say responsible, because main cities where you actually commute or transit to take an airplane to Oaxaca, Mexico City mostly, which is the outbound, or the inbound and outbound flights go to Oaxaca.
Mhm.
It's there's a lot of contagion right now. So coming now to Oaxaca, it's a risk to get infected or to bring the infection if you don't have
Yeah.
the symptoms. So that's
We got
problem.
a question from Jamie Gallegos, asking if Jaime Gallegos, sorry Jaime, asking if it's possible that there's just a severe lack of testing, and that's why nobody's, like, maybe there actually are people. Oh, it looks like Fernando wants to jump in on this one.
Mm.
Like, maybe there are people who are sick in these communities, and they just don't recognize that they're sick. Is that right, Fernando?
Yeah, I mean, thinking about this because, of course, even our health system, it's not the best. It's really hard because we, as I was saying, the people is really resilient, and sometimes we are very, well, of course, they don't like traditional medicine. They prefer, sorry, they prefer traditional medicine. So maybe in these communities, we have cases, but maybe because we don't know, they have not been tested. And since some of them have decided to shut down the borders, it's really hard to know for sure if they are or not infected. And as long as I've been in contact with some nurses and doctors from the Mixteca region, they have cases over there. They do have cases, but of course, in the main cities where, of course, they will have this equipment, the proper equipment, to know if someone has the virus or not. So I think it's, I mean, you can see even on when you're traveling across Oaxaca, over Oaxaca, and you can see all the mountains, it's really hard. The access, it's been a problem. And I think this might be a cause for which we don't know for sure a number of infected or people who has this virus. I don't know if for sure we've been able to know even after the pandemic to know a certain number, a real number of infected people in all these indigenous areas.
Okay, so we've just spent an hour talking about all the downsides here. Well, talking about what you guys do, and then now the virus. So let's get into what's the good news. What's the good news now? Or maybe there is no good news. That's okay too.
I guess I'm maybe what I'm going to say is going to be too honestly blatant, but Mexico and developing countries have been experiencing this type of suffering and enduring and struggles, like every other day. If it's not the virus, it's drug dealers, it's human trafficking, it's pollution, I mean, you name it. I guess for the first time, some of our countries are seeing how other countries that are economically more advanced are struggling with some of the things that some of our communities have to deal every day.
We're sort
and
of getting we're getting a look into what it's like in Mexico, is what you're saying.
Yeah, or even worse. It's a humbling period, a period of humbleness, of understanding that this is everywhere. Europe, Asia, Africa, and it brings people together. And now someone in Sweden, for example, that you have amazing systems of welfare, social welfare, it's experiencing the same thing as Oaxaca city. So I think that's it's an opportunity. I wouldn't say that's a benefit, but I think it's an opportunity. People are using also communities that are remote are using more IT and technologies. So they are recurring to these things. And I mean, among other things, these are the two areas that I see for opportunity.
Okay. Either of you have anything to add to that? Ana Paula?
Yeah, well, in the artisanal sector, I've seen something that it's, I mean, it's logical that it was going to happen, but not so logical. Through all these years that I've been working with cooperatives, nonprofits, especially with the artisans that not belong to any nonprofit or that are not supported by any brand or any people that they are autonomous, they were not really into technology, no social media, nothing. They were just working, waiting for people to come to the community, very random tourists, and then always waiting for the markets or, the ferias, the Guelaguetza, the Day of the Dead, the Easter, and so on. But what I've seen through all these days, I mean, through these 2 months, is that all the artisans are opening Facebook pages, Instagram pages, posting every day, WhatsApping everyone they know, sending photographs. And all my colleagues, all the textile guild, it's all day long posting stories on Instagram, Facebook pages, sending photographs to everybody, sending email with links. So I've seen an amazing solidarity among the textile, at least the artisanal, the textile field, the textile world. And what surprises me is that that the artisans are just losing this kind of fear, you know, because they, one is the fear to use technology, but the other thing is that they were working all day long and now they are not working because they have materials, because they cannot go to the shops to buy, because also the companies who sell the yarns are not producing, so they are not yarns, so they cannot produce. And the ones that can produce, they are producing but less than before. And they are working in the fields, they are taking care of the animals, they are getting in touch with their families, and they are more into the family social gathering. But now they have more time to do the social media thing. And that's the way that most of them are surviving. And I'm really surprised about that.
You know, it's lovely to hear people using social media to come together and build something, as opposed to using social media to tear each other down. That's a beautiful way for me to end a Friday evening. I like that. That's nice.
I mean, it's not coping with all the lack of sales, but at least I've seen. I mean, I'm calling very very often all the artisans, and they say, Ana, I have this and this huipil and this rebozo, and I'm the whole day posting on Instagram and send it to my friends. And I think this is the kind of things that the communities have been used to do. The Guelaguetza, this is the Tequio, this is the Guelaguetza, to support each other and to give and receive, no matter if you have 1 peso or 5,000 pesos, you are just trying to buy. And these are not buys that you need, purchases that you need. This is a support purchase, but this is it. You have to do it. I mean, I don't have any income right now because I don't have a job right now, but I'm trying just like to support, and the same, the people, and even the artisans, because they are all producing masks right now.
Like the wooden ceremonial masks?
The mask.
Oh, mask. Oh, that. You know what? That's beautiful. And I just want to. I'm glad you said that, because I would have forgotten. I just want to shout out to Alvin Starkman, the Oaxacan Mezcal tourism guru, because he's also been underwriting the cost of the creation of some of these masks through some of these communities, and then having the masks delivered out into the Mezcal communities.
Yeah.
But masks. You said masks, and I got so excited about the
mask.
Big wooden...
Sorry, my accent is not.
No. You said it right. I like when I think of masks and I think of Mexico, it's a whole different thing in my head, right?
No, so they changed what they are doing, but they didn't change who they are. They are still artisans. They are still using their technology. I mean, their handmade technology. But now they are all producing masks, and everybody's now wanting to buy artisanal masks.
Yeah, so I want that. Great. Wow. I want that. I want those. Is that going to be in the links? How I can buy one of those?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'll send one to my friend Chava. He likes very well-made things. So yeah.
Yeah, at least that's I mean, it's not the solution, but at least they are trying to figure out how to thrive in a different way.
Beautiful. So let me jump over to Fernando for a second. I've got a very specific question, and I hope the answer is yes, because otherwise it'll be embarrassing for both of us. But so unmute yourself while I ask this, Fernando. And my question is, during this downtime, some of these charities that you work with, the registered charities that you work with, are you able to do more trainings with them while they're not actually able to work in the communities? Or are they also tied up in a way that you can't you can't really reach them.
Now we can, sorry, now we have more time for helping them and to give them tools. We have a lot of courses online. We have a lot of workshops online, which has been a good opportunity to us and to them as well, because now they have more free time, more time to spare. So I think it's been an opportunity for them to strengthen their abilities. And I think, and I agree absolutely with Ana Paula, I think now it's been a very interesting time because now they are looking for new strategies to survive, to exist in a very adverse scenario, which I think they will be really more strengthened, more powerful. And I think, yes, and I also want to get what Jose Carlos was saying about, of course, they are really used to this kind of situations, specifically in the economic sense, in all this crisis. But I think they are really resilient, as I was saying. I'm sorry I repeat that a lot, but I do trust and I do believe that. And yes, now it's been a really good time to us as a project to help more organizations. Now we're even getting to not only these 3 states, we are also getting in these virtual workshops, we're also getting people from all over the country. So it's a big opportunity to us to help others and to serve others in a better way. But of course, we also have the other side, that is the situation with all those small nonprofits working side by side in small communities, which, as I was saying, they have not as much access as they would have in the cities. So, of course, for now, it's not that we have abandoned them, but we don't have the tools so far to help them or to access to them or to their needs, because they are a little bit isolated. So that's the only thing, which is a small percent of the organizations we are working with, but of course it's an important one because we don't want to leave any ship behind.
Yeah. So Ana Paula was mentioning how these artisans aren't really on the census. They don't exist on paper. And that means that they're not going to see any of this bailout money from Mexico. And my friend Remus sent in a question, like he was surprised that there's any kind of bailout system in Mexico. And we've had a pretty big one here in the USA for large companies and even small companies. Economic resources from the government turned back onto these businesses. And I'm wondering, A, what does it look like in Mexico? But very specifically, B, does any of this money reach the nonprofits? Is Secanda going to get any of this bailout money?
No. With the new administration, they decided to cut the money, the funding to all the NGOs, because during a lot of time, a lot of them were fake ones, and they were just using the face of an NGO as a cover to make very illegal and corrupt things. So the new administration had decided not to give money to the NGOs. Now with this bailout,
to any NGO, there's no exception. Like even your version of the Red Cross, which is probably the Red Cross.
yes, they cut all funding. I mean, there are still some, but in a very, very small amounts of money. Even there's usually a coin version, like in a partnership with the government and another international organization or organism which gives more money than government. But no, we're not receiving money, and I don't think in the bailout we will get money. And it's also hard because if you don't get money from government, I mean, it's good because it gives you some freedom because you're not attached to it. You have not any governmental loyalty to support any ideology and so on. But the problem is that, of course, people who are the ones supporting these non-profits, these local non-profits, are going to be to give less money as well, because of course they have to see for the immediate needs, and helping all the nonprofits or helping even in a big one, it's now not a priority. So we're facing a very challenging time for local nonprofits and even for big ones as well.
You know, let me throw that one over to Jose Carlos, right? Because he has a very specific campaign going on. You have a very specific campaign going on right now to help feed the families. Well, in Zachila, but then also in Wawapan. Is that right?
Yes. It is not our common approach, and I mean, this is the second time we do it. The first time actually was Ana Paula was with us delivering food after the earthquake.
Really?
We only do it in emergency cases, and well, what we do is Sicanda works in the central area of Oaxaca and up in the north in the Mixteca region also. So out of the about 1,200 families we work with, we pick we made a selection of the poorest of the poor, which is about 150 families that we are helping with. We're trying to help with a weekly, when it's possible, or every other week, food kit that provides food for a family of 6 people for 1 week. So that's the food, what we call in Mexico despensa, and we are raising funds. One despensa is about $25 for that helps them, feed themselves for a week. And these are families that really, because they're mostly in their informal economy, they can't work on the streets and they can't afford, buying food. And that's what we're doing right now.
So $25 will feed a family of 4 people for a week in these communities.
Yeah, 4 to 6 people.
4 to 6 people, great. And so my recollection is that when we launched this campaign, when Sacred launched this campaign to help you guys raise money for this, that we ended up covering, and really and truly, correct me if I'm wrong, but the people who drink agave spirits and who love Mexico and who want to come back down to Mexico, that group of people ended up funding 2 weeks of food for all of the families. Is that accurate?
Yeah, yes. We were like short for a few families, but yeah, basically they help have these 130, the first 130 families for 2 weeks almost.
And so I assume that that's not the only revenue stream that you've got, but you have other people from other places, either other countries or other parts of Mexico, who are also contributing to this.
Yes, actually, we're adding more families. I mean, we started with 130, and for example, we are now delivering to 190 families. The contributions go to purchasing the food. It's taking a little bit more time because even the markets, we purchase the food here in Oaxaca with local suppliers. We don't do Walmart, for example. So distribution takes time. They don't have all the products. They run out of rice, so we have to wait 2 more days until the rice come, of beans. But once it's ready, we sanitize the bags and everything, and we deliver them.
So I just got a question. It was exactly the question I wanted. Thank you for that, Rafa. I just got a question, which is, how can we donate to these families? Which ideally, not only will I type the answer so it's in this stream, but then also you'll change now your name, Jose Carlos, to the actual URL. I'm assuming people can make donations at the Sicanda website, right?
Yes, we can do it through Sacred, as we've been doing, or also on our website is sicanda.org.
So yeah, yeah, honestly, I'd rather the money just go directly to you, so there's no delay in getting it out there, right? So if you want to make a donation in order to support these families, go to Sicanda, just spelled like it is underneath Jose Carlos's, or next to Jose Carlos's name, to sicanda.org. And yeah, and $25 and a family of 6, 4 to 6 for a week. Yeah, that's beautiful. So, okay, so let's talk about what this is going to look like in 2 months and 6 months and a year. When do people get to come back and visit Oaxaca? Do you guys have any insights into this? Not a clue. Or you're trying to say something? Oh, yeah, Ana Paula?
I just read today, actually, the news that Oaxaca City, at least not the whole state, but at least Oaxaca City hasn't reached like the climax of infections. So our quarantine was supposed to be lift up at the end of May. And today I read that it's gonna be at middle June.
Middle of June.
Yeah,
But you still haven't reached a peak yet.
It hasn't reached the peak. They were expecting less infections, and they are increasing day by day, but they haven't reached that peak that the government is like, okay, from this amount of infected people, and then, they have their strategies. I haven't yet understood how this works, but that's what I read today. So I think it's going to be delayed. It's not going to be, hopefully by August, but who knows? It's very, very uncertain. I cannot really tell you. Just the news that I read today were a little bit disappointing because we were all expecting to go out at the end of May in Oaxaca City, and we're not going to be able to do that. So I don't know if Fernando and Jose Carlos has some fresh news or any other idea, but
it's interesting. I heard somebody talking about the infection rates is the thing you don't want to track, because the infection rate is based solely on infections that are identified, and the vast majority of infections are not identified because nobody has enough tests. So the rate that this person said that you should be tracking is actually the fatality rate, because the fatality rate is, it's obviously you don't want to get sick. You don't want to get sick, period, right? But the fatality rate will give you a better sense of just how big this is. So do you have any sense of what the fatality rate looks like in Oaxaca?
No.
I read a piece in the New York Times, Darian Martinique, who's a travel agent guy who I think is watching this right now, sent me a piece from the Times that had all of the rates by state in Mexico. And my recollection is that it was really, really low in Oaxaca. Like, I want to say it was 79 deaths, something like that. It was just it was really low number. But the point that I keep hearing from other friends down there is that people are dying and they're attributing it to different things. And it's getting so bad at the hospitals that you've got they don't have the equipment to take care of themselves, to protect themselves, and as a consequence, you've got entire staffs walking out of the hospital in protest because if they can't protect themselves, they can't protect their families, they can't work with these people who are coming into the hospital. But that's a much scarier picture than what I'm hearing from the three of you.
Yeah, the thing is that, like Jose Carlos was saying, Oaxaca City is one entity, but then you have the 570
Right.
municipalities. So
Right.
if you see Oaxaca in the scale, like it's not very serious, is because they are counting the whole state. But Oaxaca City is getting serious. That's the difference. If you count the whole state, it's not as bad as Monterrey or Baja California or Mexico City or Campeche or Quintana Roo. But Oaxaca City, it's growing because a lot of people didn't take care, and so the infections are growing. So I think that's at least that's like my hypothesis.
Okay. So we've only got a handful of minutes left. Is there anything that any of you wanted to add that we've not covered? Fernando. who is no longer blue. I think you've got your oxygen back.
Yes, thank you. It was just a temporary disease. So, but no COVID, thank God. So what I wanted to say, it's just one thing. You can contact us on Facebook as Ciudadanía Participativa. I think the link is on the event. As Dalton has already contacted us, if you have something to share, some abilities, some expertise you would like to share with our nonprofits, please, you're welcome. We are looking for you, and we need your savvy, we need your expertise, your wisdom to share it with our organizations. So
And
that's a way you can help others to get on their feet.
And are you saying share your abilities and your knowledge from a distance, or are you saying come down and volunteer, or both?
Both, but for now, at distance, it will be great. I mean, I can serve as a translator, so as a terrible one, but at least you could say whatever you want to say, and you will get it in Spanish, good translation. So please try to search in your abilities, in your heart, what you can share to others, to these small nonprofits, even your own personal experience, and we will see the way that this gets to the right people.
Now, somebody who clearly came in a little bit late into the webinar here is asking a very specific question. I think this person at least will be one, since you've offered to translate, Fernando, at least this one person I believe is going to end up helping you. This person asks, I have to ask where Fernando's beautiful accent is from. It sounds like it's more than just Spanish. So we already said it's Kenya, right? It's Kenyan.
Yeah, it's a Kenyan accent.
Yeah, yeah, and I would completely agree with you. When I did my little Zoom pre-interview with Fernando, I was so blown away by that accent. You sound great. Your English is awesome. Your English is awesome. So yeah.
Thank you. Asante ni sana, muwa kubariki sana.
Right back at you. Okay, so Ana Paula, Jose Carlos, anything to add to all of this?
Well, also that I'm going to send you, Lou, an email with all the Facebook pages, Instagram pages, websites that I know that people will be willing to buy from. Not just masks, but if someone wants to buy a whippeal to use in 3 months, that's great. But I mean,
when you say to use it in 3 months, you mean literally come down and pick it up after this is all?
No. But I mean, well, if you want to wear it inside your house, that's okay. But
Gotcha.
I mean, if you're going to spend 5,000 pesos in a beautiful whippeal, of course you can use it in your house. I mean, I'm not telling people not to do that. But normally you buy these beautiful and Excel pieces to wear them in another way. But I mean, that's not a restriction. But yeah, helping artisans right now, it's really, I mean, buying from them. And after this, also the way we're going to be consuming, it's going to be a thing. So I just invite people to think how they are going to spend their money. And so buying from local artisans, trying to avoid middlemen, but if there are middlemen, try to buy from middlemen who are really paying fair to the artisans, and there's a win-win situation in the whole value chain. So that's only my invitation for the
well,
people.
you know, I suspect what I'm about to ask is itself a whole nother 90-minute session. But you know, in the world of agave spirits, we often have that exact same question: how do you know who is an actor who's doing things properly? How do you know? And I don't know how you would do that with artisans either.
Well, I can know that because I'm here, I'm working with them, I know everybody. And there's, you develop a kind of intuition and but the links that I'm going to send you are definitely good ones. Go. I mean, trust me, because I'm working on that. I'm working in social issues. So I'm sure that this money will go to good hands.
Beautiful.
But it's hard to tell. I mean, definitely it's hard to tell. But
yeah. And Jose Carlos, anything to add?
Yeah, just to add on that note, I think look at the information that the charities, the organizations, or the middlemen provide. The more information about the family, the details where the proceeds go, the reports or the information that they give you after you purchase or you donate, I think that gives you an insight of what type of relationship there is between the middleman or the organization and the beneficiaries. So there's some indicators. And yeah, just finally wanted to thank you, Lou, for organizing this this session, and for everybody who attended this webinar. And looking forward to be in touch with you in case you want to know more about Oaxaca, or if you want to come to Oaxaca and visit some of our organizations, you are mostly welcome.
Amen. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap it up with that. I want to thank each of you. I want to thank you, Ana Paulo, Fernando, and Jose Carlos, very much for your time and your wisdom and your insights, and for the work that you're doing, and I want you to all stay safe and stay sane during this, as I want all of our viewers to stay safe and sane. The video of this should be live on the Sacred YouTube page within a few hours. The shortcut to get there will be helpingoaxaca.com. When you go to that page, if you could subscribe, apparently I get a free hat if I get 100 subscribers on the YouTube Sacred page, and I really need a new hat. My head burns easily. If you liked this talk, Mezcalistas has a whole series of online agave talks you want to check out. So you'll definitely want to go to their Facebook page and find their events. And as I said at the beginning, I will be leading a Palenque tour on behalf of Cruz de Fuego a week from today. You can check the events, this event and other events, at sacred.mx for details. Thank you all very much.
Gracias.
And I hope to see y'all soon in person.
Yeah. Gracias. Buenas noches.
Thank you. Bye.
Gracias.
Bye.